Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Today we dive into a story that is shaking the foundations of American law. Politics and trade. At the center of it all stands an Indian-American legal icon, Neal Katyal. Now, many of you may have heard his name in passing. Perhaps you've seen him on television, explaining complex cases with effortless clarity. Perhaps you've seen his arguments before the Supreme Court. But today, Neal Katyal is not just another lawyer. He is the man taking on Donald Trump in one of the most consequential legal battles in recent U.S. history. The fight over tariffs. But who really is Neal Katyal? How did the son of Indian immigrants rise to become one of the most trusted voices in American law? And what does this tariff battle mean not just for America, but for India, for the global economy, and for the Indian American diaspora? Stay with me, because by the end of this story, you will not only know who Neal Katyal is, but you'll understand why his fight matters to every global citizen watching the U.S. economy today. Let's begin with the man himself. Neal Katyal was born in Chicago in 1970. His father was a pediatrician. His mother, a pediatrician, as well to Indian immigrants who came to the United States chasing opportunity. Like so many families of their generation, they didn't come from wealth, they didn't have political influence. But what they carried with them was the dream that their children could rise higher than they ever could. Neal went on to study at Dartmouth College and later at Yale Law School. From the beginning, he wasn't just another student, he stood out. His professors noted his sharp mind, his ability to cut through dense arguments and reach the heart of the matter. But here's the twist. Neal Katyal didn't just want to be a successful lawyer. He wanted to be where law meets history. And time and again, he has found himself in precisely those moments. One of his earliest defining cases came in the aftermath of 9/11. America was shaken. The government began holding detainees in Guantanamo Bay without trial, without rights. Few lawyers dared to challenge this. It was unpopular, even dangerous. But Neal Katyal took the case of Salim Hamdan Osama bin Laden's driver, arguing that even in times of war, the rule of law must stand. Think about that for a moment. An Indian-American lawyer standing before the U.S. Supreme Court, defending the rights of a man accused of working for the world's most wanted terrorist. And guess what? He won. The Supreme Court sided with Katyal. That case, Hamdan v. Rumsfeld, became one of the most important rulings of the post-9/11 era. It showed the world that no president, no matter how powerful, is above the Constitution. And from that moment on, Neal Katyal became known as the legal eagle of America. Fast forward to today. The man who once defended constitutional rights in the war on terror is now fighting another battle, this time in the arena of economics. Donald Trump, during his return to politics, doubled down on tariffs, essentially taxes on imported goods. The idea was to protect American workers and industries, but economists warned it could backfire. Higher tariffs mean higher prices, strained supply chains, and global retaliation. And here comes Neal Katyal. With a team of legal experts, he is challenging Trump's tariffs as unconstitutional. His argument, that the President of the United States cannot, by himself, wield unchecked power over international trade. That the Constitution gives Congress, not the White House, the authority to regulate tariffs and trade. Think about the stakes here. This isn't just about the price of steel or the cost of electronics. This case will decide whether the U.S. president has near king-like powers in shaping trade policy or whether those powers must remain accountable to democracy. Now, let's pause here and ask, why does this matter to India? Why does it matter to the Indian-American community? First, India is one of the biggest trading partners of the United States. Tariffs hit India's exports hard. From textiles to pharmaceuticals, Indian businesses face rising costs. When that happens, jobs in India suffer. Farmers feel the pinch. Small manufacturers face collapse. Second, Indian Americans, many of whom are entrepreneurs, business owners, and tech innovators feel the ripple effect in the U.S. economy. Higher tariffs can mean higher operating costs. reduce market opportunities, and strain ties between India and America. So when Neal Katyal takes up this case, he's not just defending the Constitution. In many ways, he's defending the globalized economy that connects families from Mumbai to New York, from Delhi to Silicon Valley. But beyond economics, there is something deeply symbolic about this fight. Think about it. An Indian American, the child of immigrants, is standing up in the highest courts of the land, taking on the most powerful man in America, defending not just business interests, but the very balance of democracy. It's a reminder that immigrants are not just beneficiaries of the American dream, they are its defenders, its architects, its guardians. And Neal Katyal has been that guardian time and again. Did you know that he has argued more than 45 cases before the U.S. Supreme Court? More than almost any other lawyer of his generation. He's taught law at Georgetown University, written books, mentored students, and become a regular presence on major news outlets. Yet, despite all this fame, he carries a humility shaped by his heritage. He often speaks about how his parents' sacrifices inspired him, how the Indian values of education, discipline, and integrity guide his decisions even today. Now, let's zoom out and look at the global picture. China is rising. The U.S. is retaliating. Tariffs are being weaponized. Countries like India are caught in the middle, sometimes benefiting, sometimes suffering. This new age of economic nationalism could reshape the world order. And at this crossroads, one legal case, this case, could decide whether America moves toward unchecked presidential power or returns to constitutional balance. That's why the world is watching Neal Katyal, not just as a lawyer, but as a symbol of resistance to authoritarian drift. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. Trump is not backing down. His supporters argue that strong tariffs are necessary to protect American jobs from China. They paint critics as globalists who don't care about the American worker. So the courtroom battle will not just be about law. It will be about narratives, about who defines patriotism, about whether America looks inward or continues to embrace the global economy. And in that battle of stories, Neal Katyal stands as a powerful counter-narrator. Calm, articulate, precise, he represents the voice of reason, of constitutionalism, of global connection. So where does this story end? We don't know yet. The case is ongoing. It may go all the way to the Supreme Court, where Neal Katyal has stood many times before. And once again, history may be written in those marble halls. But one thing is certain. Win or lose, Neal Katyal has already changed the conversation. He has shown that the Indian American community is not a silent minority, but a powerful force shaping law and policy. He has shown that the values of the Constitution still have defenders willing to stand up even against the most powerful figures. And he has shown the next generation that whether you are an immigrant, the child of immigrants, or simply someone who believes in justice, you too can rise to the moment when history calls. So, the next time you hear the name Neal Katyal, don't just think of a lawyer. Think of a man who has stood at the crossroads of war and peace, of democracy and power, of law and politics. Think of a man who embodies both the American dream and the Indian heritage. And remember this, in a world where power often bends rules, it is voices like his that keep democracy standing tall. Thank you.